Welcome to Complexity Made Simple. My name is Paul Allen, and the subject of today's newsletter is the measure phase of the DMAIC cycle. So now we've moved to the measure step. Now it's quite possible that you've already done some work in this area as part of the define phase of your project, because of course in order to define what the hell's going on, what's the current defect rate, what's the current problem, what's my current cost of poor quality, you probably had to do some measurement in order to do that. So you may have already done some good work in this area. So what might this entail? Well, the one we're talking about, it could be number one. It could be set up data collection, and effectively what that's doing is it's setting up your measure of success. Okay, now why might you need to do this? Why might you need to set up a measure? Well, it could be that the place that the problem got spotted is not the point of activity. So it could be end of line test. So you might do an end of line test, problem has been picked up, and it's been decided that the problem was way up the process, and currently we don't measure for whatever it is that's causing the problem. Could be that the customers picked it up. You know, by the way, the worst place, let your customers inspect your mistakes. It's the worst, most expensive place you can put your inspection process, by the way. But then it could be that you don't currently look for it, so it's something that's come up, it's not something that you look for, you have to set a measure up, and then of course you have to decide how much of a problem this is. Now this would have got done, of course, really, it would have got done in the define phase. So it's back to what I've said before, that the define, measure, analyze, improve and control isn't really linear, okay, because you just got to do good work in the 5 areas, because it doesn't make any sense for it to be linear, because really you have to measure before you can define. So okay, that could be one of the things you're doing. Let's say you already have a measurement set up. Well, what's one of the things you want to be doing at the measurement phase? Well, one of the things, you might want to generate some graphs or some pictures, which you don't currently do. So what you might have currently is just data. And of course what we want to do, turn this into pictures. Let's make it visual so we can see what's going on. Again, this may have happened in the define phase, because you want to see whether you have a problem with signal or noise. Only way to see that is with some pictures. Okay, what else? Well, let's say you have the measure set up, it was already there, you already have the graphs and the things, that's how the problem was identified in the first place, and you know what you're going to do next. Well, one of the things you need to do now is to validate. You need to validate the accuracy of the measure. Now what this might mean, it might mean that you have to do an MSA. It might mean you have to do a measurement system analysis. And of course if the MSA tells you you've got a problem, then job one is to fix that problem, because if you can't measure it properly, you can't do the project. But even where you don't have to do where you don't have to do an MSA, you have to validate the accuracy of the data. So sometimes, for instance, I did a project which was on days late. We ordered the product, when the goods came in, we had a date received against a date that we expected it. We took one from the other, and I knew whether I was late, early or on time. I don't need to do an MSA to validate that the computer can take one date away from the other. But what I did have in my data set, I had spurious results. I had goods that were ordered as samples, and the delivery date really didn't mean anything in terms of production parts being delivered. So I had to take that data out of my data set. So you should always validate the accuracy and the validity of your data set. You should always validate your measurement system. An MSA, if an MSA is appropriate, but validate the system regardless. And to be honest, once you've done that, and also, you know, put the problem right, if you found a problem with the MSA, you're ready to move on. You've now done define and measure. You're ready to go on to analyze, improve, and control.